Bunny Shaw! This time it's in.
Khadija Shaw, it had to be Bunny.
Kelly with City's fourth corner of the afternoon. Delivery as well, and there's Shaw's header, and that's 2-2. Khadija Bunny Shaw brings City back level. It's her first goal of the season. And it hasn't taken Gareth Taylor's team long to reply after half-time. Less than 10 minutes gone after the restart, and we're all square at Villa Park.
Cross comes back out to the left wing. 60-degree turn from him. Shaw gets ahead to it. And Manchester City take the lead. The cross coming in from Lauren Hem. Shaw makes contact with her head to take it past Kirsty Lavelle. And it's Manchester City 1, Leicester 0. Well, that was a Lauren Hemp turn from left-hand side, and just the chip to the head of Shaw, who managed to head it past Lavelle and in. Greenwood from the penalty spot steps up, or it's saved by Lavelle, but Shaw follows up to turn it in. Well, the penalty saved by Lavelle. Shaw, though, there to mop up, and she makes it Manchester City 3, Leicester City 0.
Oh, it's a great header as well. And City finally make the breakthrough. And no surprises to the identity of the scorer, Khadija Bunny Shaw, with her fourth goal of the season already. Now they're giving the ball away in a dangerous area here, and it's Bunny Shaw again, and it's 2. Ruthless from Khadija Bunny Shaw. And Manchester City, in no time at all, have doubled their lead. Less than 2 minutes gone in the second half. To any other player, that would have been a half chance. But Shaw thumped it in and made it Tottenham 0, City 2.
Now Hemp steps inside, wriggles away for another challenge, threads the ball through. Khadija Shaw! It had to be Bunny. She's been kept quiet the first 20 minutes, a half chance, and in the form that Khadija Shaw is in, you never doubted that was going to ripple in the bottom corner. Brilliant finish, fantastic build-up play from Lauren Hem. Khadija Shaw gives Manchester City the lead.
Lauren Hem sends the ball past ready defence to Mary Fowler, takes a step to the left. Bunny Shaw! Oh! Bunny Shaw, the league's top scorer, strikes again. Who else for Manchester City? This season has been hers all over. She has made that position her own.
Given away, Blackstad to Coombs. Coombs with the effort, somehow kept out and followed in by Bunny Shaw. She would not be denied. And Bunny Shaw restores City's lead, but credit to Laura Coombs.
Nicely through. This is Shaw's best chance so far. Khadija Shaw rounds the goalkeeper and scores. 5 minutes into the second half, that's all it's taken Manchester City. Khadija Shaw with her 9th of the season.
Kelly was wide this time, away from Gaspari. An exchange with Shaw, they worked that well. Here's Coombs, all about the delivery. Bunny Shaw, this time it's in. Knock, knock, knock at the door. Finally it goes in. It's about 15 times lucky for Bunny Shaw.
A very good afternoon. Happy Saturday and welcome along to Matchday Live. We are in Studio 1 and you'll see I've got an awesome guest panel lined up for you as Manchester City take on Arsenal in the WSL, of course, after that brilliant game in the week. Not the result City wanted, but they're going to be hoping to bounce back. You'll see to my right, I have Karen Bardsley. Karen, how are we?
I'm great, thanks. It's good to be here.
Very excited to have you here as well, and making their Matchday live debuts. Listen, I don't bite, don't worry. Izzy, Christiansen, how are you feeling? Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. Weekend off for me, so here I am. It's a pleasure to be here as well.
Well, it's an absolute treat to have you. Thank you for joining us, of course, Laura Bassett as well. I think we should have a great game in our hands, shouldn't we, Laura?
Yeah, really. It's set up, especially after Wednesday's game, it's set up to be another cracker, so can't wait.
We're going to get into all of that in just a second, but this is the first place that you can get team news, so it is my pleasure to bring you our starting 11 as chosen by Gareth Taylor. This is how Manchester City is shaping up today as we take on Arsenal. Hopefully as well we're going to be hearing from Gareth Taylor a little bit later on in the show. So here we are, starting in goal, coming into the side. Ellie Roebuck is one of 3 changes from, of course, that game against Arsenal earlier on in the week. Then we have Kirsten Kasperai. Captain in our side is Steph Houghton. It was great to have her on Matchday live for the Tottenham game alongside Jolene Lescott. Alex Greenwood as well alongside her with Leia Alexandri. Then we have Yui Hasegawa, Philippa Angeldal, Laura Coombs comes into the side, and our forward 3 who have been in some scintillating form, Chloe Kelly, Lauren Helm, and of course Bunny Shaw. Then as we look to the bench, of course we've got some names there that we'd love to see on the pitch at some point. Sandy McKeever there, who had a great game in the middle of the week against Arsenal. Mary Fowler, Dana Castellanos, Hayley Rasso, Layla Uhabi and Julie Blackstad. Julie, one more Julie to another. What were your first thoughts when seeing that starting 11?
Yeah, really interesting. I expected Ellie Roebuck to come back in goal, to be honest. I know, like you say, Sandy McKeever had a really solid game, made some really good, important saves, and I felt she commanded her area, but Ellie Roebuck, she go-to goalkeeper. And with Steph Houghton, when she came on again, she had a really good impact when she came on and was needed on Wednesday's game. And we know exactly what she brings, her leadership skills and her dominance and her commanding and how she gels the team.
We were saying as well that, it was quite a physical game. How important is it having those leaders and voices on the pitch for the players? What sort of impact do them, personalities have?
Yeah, and I think with this Manchester City team, they are in a little bit of a transition in terms of identifying new leaders alongside Steph, because obviously she's been in and out of the team. I think Alex Greenwood's really stepped up into that role, and obviously the absence of Ellen White, obviously retiring, she was a huge leader for the girls last season. So I think Steph coming back in, no problem at all. She's a top professional. Alex Greenwood stepping in, she's a really key part to the way that Gareth Taylor wants his team to play.
It was a very tight game in the middle of the week. Can you see City looking at this team with those 3 changes doing something slightly different to maybe what they did earlier on in the week, KB?
Well, I think it's going to be a pretty similar approach, if I'm being honest. Pardon me. The margins are going to be very, very fine.
Yeah.
But I do think, some of those changes will probably show the fluidity and kind of the relationships that they've built kind of after just playing loads of games together. Do you know what I mean? So those partnerships will probably be a little bit more well-formed. People will just be used to certain weights of passes, or whether it's in feet or space. So I might imagine we'll see a bit more fluidity and speed and certain, whether it's going to be transitions or limiting turnovers or winning first and second balls and things like that. So I think it'll be a little bit of a tidier performance at times, but, hopefully we can take some of the lessons that the team has learned, obviously, midweek and apply them, today. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good game.
Speaking of those lessons, what do you think some of those lessons will be? What do you think kind of they might have picked up in that game that they might try and, implement or be wary of in this fixture? Yeah,
maybe. I think, it was a surprise the way Arsenal set up with a back 3, like a 3-4-3 situation. That was the first time that they'd done this, played that formation, set up like that for this season. So I'm sure they would have reviewed the game, looked at how, Arsenal played out their strengths. So if they do that, they know they're well equipped and how to maybe stop and combat some of their key players. But then also if they revert back to a back 4 and how that affects the rest of the team. That'll be a big one. And then look, when you play top teams, it's about fine margins, isn't it? It's about your chances, your big chances. Look, with City's front 3, they will create. How can they keep getting the supply to Bunny Shaw? With Laura Coombs coming into the side, her energy, her runs that open up space for other people.
Yes.
I think they'll look to execute that more than what they did on Wednesday.
It feels as well, obviously, the midfield is a key part in any game. Do you think there's going to be some key battles in there today?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, off the back of what Laura said, I think that with regards to what I want to see from City is a little bit more risks taken in the final third. I think they really nailed the build-up and the adaptation of moving players around at the back to sort of create, spaces and overloads and progress the ball. But I think what we're looking at is can they get more from the forwards? I mean, don't get me wrong, forwards with the likes of Bunny, Chloe Kelly, Lauren Hemp, and then obviously off the bench, Mary Fowler, Hayley Rasso.
Yeah.
Got players that can make a real impact. But I think with what you say about the midfield, they're the key to linking defence and attack.
Yes.
And I think with Coombsy back in, I think Bass made an excellent point about her forward runs, opens an open space for Bunny to come in deep.
Yeah.
Players get attracted to Bunny, and then it opens up space for the wingers. So I think it's just creating those movements. I think KB's point about being tidy, I think it's integral for City today to be tidy, frustrate Arsenal, because if City win today, you know, they're right back in the mix.
They really, really are. And you know, bar the week, though, the momentum has really been building for this team. You know, I think you mentioned there as well that there have been changes, and we know that Gareth was still kind of having to bring in new faces. They've started to kind of really settle, and we're now really starting to see the best of this team. But it does feel, KB, that we're not even close to kind of where the potential could be for them.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think we've had so many changes over the summer and obviously brought in lots of new faces. And I think, obviously, Laura and Izzy will understand that when you come in to a new side, especially one that's kind of as structured, you know, and as profiled, I would suppose, as each position is, like, you obviously want to bring your own strengths, but you have to kind of find a way to make it fit in what the manager wants to do as well. So I think we've managed to do that. You know, we had a kind of a rough start at the beginning with those few fixtures that we dropped points on early in the season, but we've gained momentum. We've kind of, again, built those relationships on the training pitch, and people are starting to look like they really are understanding the spaces that are meant to appear, the expectations from, like, the delivery of certain players, like what to understand, you know, again, like the fine details around where someone wants a pass, like where the spaces are going to appear, whether it's in the midfield or whether it's kind of beyond, like, what, I don't know, how to manipulate the opposition a bit more, you know. So I think we're starting to see more consistent performances over the course of a game, but I still haven't seen, like, a real cohesive performance from Manchester City this season over the course of 90 minutes consistently, you know. So I'm hoping that, you know, towards the tail end of this season, maybe the beginning of next season, we'll really see a well-oiled group.
Yes.
But yeah, I think Izzy and Laura have both made some fantastic points today about what we can potentially see from this team.
Just speaking of those new signings, Laura, I wondered, you know, are there any standouts for you? Has anyone come in and surprised you, or really you kind of loved the look at what they brought to this City team?
I mean, I think the first one that stands out is Yui Hasegawa for me. I think, you know, without harping on about the Kira Walsh conversation, I'm sure we've had that many, many times, but Hasegawa, KB, the profile's right. And at West Ham, she played more of an attacking midfielder, and she can execute that role. But to come into, like, a structured, organised, you know, Man City, it's very much, bring yourself and bring what you bring to the game, but actually in our way. And to find that balance is sometimes hard for a player to accept and also perform on a week-to-week basis. So for her, I mean, I think she's first in kind of, like, passing accuracy, the amount of passes. Like, she's just so assured. And I think when you play with a player like that, it just calms the whole situation down. And for Man City to give a good performance, 8 out of 10, it needs that person in the centre of the pitch to be so composed, know the vision, know the awareness, know where everyone's going. And for her to do that so quickly, she's only 6 months or so without... but it just blows my mind. So I think she's been the top player.
I think she was my player of the match in the derby, actually. I think, you know, Laura Coombs had a great game, but actually I think she, as you say, she was calmness personified on that pitch.
I mean, she's brave. She wants to get on the ball. But she's also constantly available, constantly moving, checking her shoulder, understanding, like, where the exits are going to be before she gets it. You know, she receives on the half turn, but the thing is that she always wants the ball in the tight spaces. And you think, right, like, that's the kind of player you need to have in that position, someone that's brave and courageous.
For young players coming up, if you want to play for this Man City women's team, watch Yui Hasegawa, because she's got all the attributes. You know, of course, like, different positions, you need more, but in terms of a midfielder, she's your role model.
Just wanted to quickly look as well at our fullbacks. I mean, as we know, it's where we're so used to seeing Greenwood, who's made such a beautiful transition into the centre of the pitch and such a commanding force. But they are still key as well, that obviously who have come into the way City play and sometimes getting forward on that overlap as well, which we might see a bit today.
That's right. And actually, in recent months, weeks, City have actually adapted the way the fullbacks play. I think you're seeing similar to what the men's team do. With regards to Rico Lewis has done excellently for the men's team, coming in field and adding numbers to sort of be an extra number 6 to pack out that midfield, and it opens up space, you know, for the wingers to maybe drop a little bit deeper to get on the ball and then dribble 1v1 at the fullback. So I think it's a feat which Manchester City seem to be using across all of their teams. And I think this women's team, they've got the option of playing perhaps Iwabi, who's obviously Spanish left-back, came in this season. Yeah. She's a player who hasn't really got going yet in a City shirt. She's come from Barcelona. She's an exceptionally talented player who gives you that more sort of traditional full-back in behind. She's got a beautiful left foot when she gets in beyond. But I think, generally speaking, the principle behind bringing the full-backs inside is to pack out the midfield. And because City, like Laura said, they're so good in tight areas. They're players who can receive the ball under heaps of pressure, comfortably, and it just brings a player out, opens up a space somewhere else. So I think it takes years of practice, doesn't it, on the training pitch out there?
Yes.
It's not something which happens overnight. And we're talking about the profile of player that Man City sign, whether that be the under-8s, the women's team, the men's team. Good in tight areas, good on the ball, comfortable in possession.
It's this is going to be quite an obvious question, but I always think it's important to say, because I think as fans, sometimes, you know, we think, you know, top athletes, you come into any team, they should be performing like we've seen them, you know, play at their previous clubs or what we, you know, the potential that they have. But it's never that easy. You mentioned there about the technical ability, but then it's as well getting to know your teammates, and some do settle quicker than others, but it is a time thing, isn't it? And I think sometimes fans just have to go, they need to need a season to get under the belt, to get used to the surroundings.
Yeah, no, I think you see it all the time, don't you? Where you know, as a player, you bring a certain something, like your super strength almost, and sometimes you think, well, that's what I'm going to resort to in these types of situations, or that's what I've been brought here to do, and then you kind of realize, actually, we want you to do that, but you have to understand the time, and you have to kind of complement what everyone else is doing, you know, with what you can do and when you can do it. But yeah, I remember coming here, you know, God, what was it, 9 years ago, and thinking, it seems like ages. I'm like, I think it was 9 or 10 years ago now. But, you know, having to adapt the pictures that I was seeing in my mind, and like the spaces that I was looking for previously, like I would never think about putting a ball in there. Or, you know, if someone's asking with, you know, a player to kind of, you know, up their back, and the 6 wants it, you know, it's like, okay, well, what does that look like? What foot? Where's the pressure coming from? You start asking all yourselves a lot of different questions really, really quickly to start solving those types of problems. And I think if you're not used to that, it's really, really difficult to kind of change how you start thinking about the game. And I remember it took me a while to kind of adapt. You know, when we wanted to go shorter, like my game was a lot more long and direct, and I loved like a long diag or anything like that, you know. And so to kind of just go, we have to be really brave here and like wait and be patient on the ball and attract like, you know, a 9 charging down at you, and just going to try and roll it over here, and, you know, try to buy myself some time and wait for, you know, the fullback to drop down or the 6 to get across or the 8 or the space to appear in the midfield, and just kind of like, I hope it goes okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, it's challenging. It really is challenging. So I think as fans, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, you might not have that context. You just think it's all football is the same everywhere, but it's not. And now the scary thing is it's changing even more and at a quicker rate. So you've got really well structured teams, you know, like the likes of like City and the men's first team, that, you know, someone has to be here, and then that has to have that relationship there, and then this is how you move this, and this is what you expect to see. And then you have teams that just allow, you know, freedom in the final third. Go and express yourself, and you know, send 5 forward, and you know, we'll sort out the counterattack. Don't worry, you know. And so you're starting to see that kind of appear in like Spain and like parts of France as well. And you're kind of like, well, where does that come from, and what's that going to look like now when it, you know, comes to the UK or it comes into the women's game? You know what I mean? And the way the transfer markets are going, and the you know, like, everyone's just bringing in knowledge and thoughts and ideas from all over the world, and it's crazy. Like, I don't envy any managers right now, to be honest, having to manage all of that.
I wonder, for you guys, when you know, in your careers, do you remember having to kind of have to learn different processes, and do any stories stand out at all for you, Laura?
Not stories. I think also just when you change clubs, just getting used to what the manager wants, because like they've recruited you for what you bring, but actually, you know, what does the manager want in different situations, and away from home or playing at home, and just different styles, and then playing when when you're signed for a club and you think, oh, I'm going as a centre-back, and they play you right back. Although it's like, all right, great, no, yeah, cheers for that. Yeah.
Reading the small print in the contract.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What I was good at.
It is like, and going back to what KB, it's not necessarily physically and technically. You'll back yourself because you've done years of practice. It's sometimes the brain overload, the decision-making, you know, that you kind of have, that takes time. And then because you've got so many, what does the manager want me to do? What do I have? What does the team need me to play? But actually what I want to play, it's just kind of processing all that. And that's sometimes why you see when new players come to a team, the inconsistencies of performances and decision-making. So that's where the decision-making piece and the brain and the mentality takes the longer piece of work.
Yeah, a little bit more time, and as you say, a lot of it is done out on that training pitch.
But that's for stories. No. I've been retired a long time, you know.
Doesn't feel it.
Izzy, of course, over at Everton. How is the season going for you and the team over there?
Yeah, no, it's good, really good. We're much closer than we expected to be towards the top end of the table. Yeah. Not that we didn't want to be there, but we set off the season with no goals really. In terms of we've just had a brand new manager in. Mm-hmm. Basically, the club's been flipped upside down in terms of structure, the way of playing, loads of new faces, loads of new players. So the mainstays who've been at the club for a few years, the likes of myself, Gabby George, to name a couple that, you know, there's been a lot of change to deal with. New faces in, bringing them up to speed with the kind of morals of the club, if you like. But no, it's been really good, and I think we're starting to feel better performances. We're starting to figure each other out and figure out systems that are working. We can hurt teams. Yes. But listen, like the gaps between us and possibly Aston Villa, Aston Villa, and then the teams above us, Man United, City, Arsenal, Chelsea, you know, they're top teams, and KB's alluded to the way that Man City play, and I can vouch for that from when I was here as well. Just the ingrained principles of play. It's when it's done right, it's unstoppable. Yeah. And you now see Man City doing that, but we're also seeing Man United do that. We're seeing Chelsea doing that. We're seeing Arsenal under Jonas Eidevall, you know, his new style of play. That the gap to close on the top four is getting more difficult. Mm-hmm. But you know, there's no stopping. You know, the sky's the limit with us and how far we can go. But it's really nice to have some structure and just some real core principles of playing, because it gives you as players a sense of accountability, as in, okay, I didn't do that in the game because my teammate needed that if I did it, and etc. So I think having those core principles to refer back to are really important for a team.
Yeah, absolutely. I know what me and Kay was going to say. I mean, we wish you all the luck, but it's not too much.
We're coming for you, you know. And Jess Park's doing great.
I wanted to find out about this because obviously I don't know how long we've got in terms of time to natter away about this, but I'm intrigued by how Everton have really taken advantage of kind of all of the loans, and you know. But I think it's great. You know, like it's great for the players that go away in terms of they're getting to work with fantastic people like yourself that have loads and loads of experience. But then also, you know, they're being challenged and stretched in all sorts of different ways. But then as a club strategy, like in one way, I think, you know, it becomes maybe transient if say, for instance, you don't have a long contract there. You know, how do you build a succession plan or a full squad? Yeah. But at the same time, like I think it's really exciting that you're constantly getting like this youthful enthusiasm coming into the group, and I'm really intrigued by it. Like how have you found it being there?
It's been interesting for us. Like I said, myself and Gabby, probably mainstays of the team. You know, we've got I think it was 5 loan players that came in the summer. Now we've got 4. One who signed a permanent deal in January. So yeah, there was an element of like, how is this going to work long term, sort of thing. But no, they've been great. Like Jess in particular, you know, she's a player we all know has got heaps of talent. Yeah. You know, and I just feel like I've taken under my wing a little bit, and she's this type of player that needs possibly some harsh words at times in training to keep her focused. But I feel like she's just enjoying some great form because she's got a real sense of freedom in the system that we play. She comes into training every day with a smile on her face, and so do the other girls who are on loan, because I feel like we've achieved a really nice balance of welcoming people in. I don't know what the future's going to hold. You know, at the end of the season, are the players going to stay? Are they going to go? Are we going to bring new players in? You know, a lot can change in football, but now is what is important, and everyone's really gelling. But I completely hear what you're saying, probably partly because of your job role in terms of looking to the future of women's football.
I'm intrigued by it. Like, what's going on?
Future director of football over there.
I know.
Looking at sustainability of clubs. And, I can see the way you're thinking, Phoebe. But this is a pitch. Yeah, possibly.
Like, look at my PowerPoint presentation.
But no, it's good feelings at the moment, and special mention to Jess, your player, but currently doing great for us.
Yeah, well, and great to know though you've got someone like yourself under the winger, and Laura, that experience cannot be underestimated, can it? For young players, to have people and players like Izzy there that are able to guide them through it. It can do them wonders, and I guess actually could even cut down 2 years of getting to their full potential. Could happen a lot quicker.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one thing when a young player goes on loan, they need to play. They need playing time, so that's going to give them confidence because they feel valued and trusted and to perform that role. But like you say, if they've got experienced players, Gabby George, Izzy around them, if these young players are willing to listen and try, they're not going to take everything that you say on board, but if they're willing to open their ears, listen a bit, ask questions and maybe make it a conversation, like you say, you can accelerate that learning a little bit quicker and kind of get to, because ultimately, Jess Pott wants to be playing first team football for Manchester City.
Yes.
So that is the long term. But if you can use as many people, whether that is an experienced player or a coach or whoever, a mentor, if you can use those people around you as your support network, you might be able to get there quicker.
Yeah.
So, but it's just if young players are willing to listen.
That's the other side of it.
The other thing with Jess is that she's asked me a lot of questions about where do I go when the ball's there, just on the training pitch or off it, And I actually say to her sometimes, Jess, I'm exactly where you are, because we've both worked under the manager for the same amount of time. I said, I don't know sometimes what the manager's asking in this situation, but we can go and ask the question together, because there isn't any ego involved with, I've been here for 4 years and I know everything.
Yes.
Because we've actually got a new manager, and his way of playing is much different to the previous manager. So a lot of Jess's journey has been, with the more senior players, has been actually, do you know what, we're on the same path here.
Yes.
Because I've played under him the same amount of time as you have. I'm still learning. I'm 31 and I'm learning.
Yeah.
You're 21 and you're learning. You've got the world ahead of you. So, you know what, we can go and ask these questions together and find out the answers and discover in that way, instead of me saying, no, you have to go there. Because I actually might be wrong.
Yes.
I need to learn as much as she does.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such a great thing there as well for any young players, saying you were saying they're 31 but still willing to learn, and that's it. I guess, you can never stop learning as a player, can you, really?
No.
Let's look in towards City's attacking prowess, and we seem to mention her on every show, and we even speak about her when we're doing the men's game. Bunny Shaw, KB, talk to me.
I mean, where do you even start with Bunny?
That's why I'm just saying talk to me. I don't know.
You know what, you guys haven't played up against her this season, I have.
Oh, well,
right. I went, no, going back to KB, but I was bouncing off her. She was just like one of those, just a tiny little one. I'm
glad I'm retired.
You'd have her back.
I would like to have seen that.
No.
I tell you what, I would like to have seen that.
I would have passed her on to the other centre half. I would have got someone right on her toes. We would have been so deep.
Don't spin me, please. No, she's prolific at the minute. She really is. I mean, 10 goals, top in the table in terms of goals this season in the WSL. I think she's just come into her own form. I think, similar to maybe what we were discussing earlier about what she brings to a team, but then also how she slots into the methodology and the style of play. Because I think, last season, obviously, Ellen White was kind of, they were sharing time, weren't they? And I think maybe she didn't get the service, the delivery that she wanted, but now she's understood that, if she frames the goal, if she stays relatively central for the majority of the time, which is what Gareth Taylor is going to be asking of her, that the delivery will come. And she's so strong. I mean, these are perfect examples of her positional awareness, to look at where the centre back's going to be, how she can create some space and protect the ball, manipulate it, and then get an opportunity in on goal. And I think she's added a whole nother level as well. Now she's understood kind of the importance of both sides of the ball in terms of doing work and pressing defensively. I think we saw a few clips this season from, just not taking your foot off the gas in terms of if the centre back's beating you in terms of transition or starting the attack, like your job's not done, and you've got a key opportunity to go and win the ball back in a perfectly positioned area, center of the pitch, and you're attacking third to go and have an opportunity on a goal. And I'm like, her progressions into the final third have been excellent. Her pass completion, but the range of passes that she's making, like her availability. But I mean, you've seen, I remember you commenting it a few times, like the strength.
Yeah.
And the first touch that she has to kind of take these deliveries, hold off players. Like, she's just, I've really enjoyed watching her this season. I'm like geeking out about Bruyne right now.
I think we all are. I'm going to come back to you on your point, Laura. How would you, if you were still playing, how would you go about trying to stop her?
Well, I think that clip there where it shows Alex Greenwood, when she's got time and space, not only do they feed Chloe Kelly and Lauren Hemp, it's now that ball into Bunny Shaw because she's so strong, she can hold it off, she can turn and shoot herself, or she can lay off the runners wherever the space is, the midfield runners. So it's that, whereas I think that's developed from City's game from last season, when I think Ellen White and Bunny Shaw were sharing game time, whatever, but now Bunny Shaw, I'm the main striker, I'm the go-to person, feed me the ball, whether it's centrally into feet. I think that's developed in City. I think we've seen a lot more chances and goals created from a central, because teams are going to try and stifle Chloe Kelly and Lauren Hemp. But if you do that, it leaves the central open up for Bunny Shaw to come and get it feet. And like you say, I don't know, I'd just man mark her, I'd touch her, I'd try, I wouldn't lose sight of her. And like I say, I'd want my teammate and double up on her. But while you can't do that against this City team because they find the space, they find the extra person because they're so composed on the ball. But I mean, I'd struggle to look over her, to be honest. I need some step ladders.
Well, you said then, and then because if we're doubling up, say, on Bunny Shaw, I mean, both, I think either side of her have been brilliant, but Chloe Kelly just is in an unbelievable vein of form and just seems to be getting better and better.
Yeah, she is, and I really liked what Gareth Taylor said about her in an interview a couple of weeks ago. I read about how you can't forget she's just come back from an ACL.
A big injury.
Yeah. To come back in the team, to then go and score the winning goal in the European Championship final, to win England to Euros, to then, you've gone from being possibly a household name in Manchester to a household name globally because of the impact that had. And then as a player, I mean, we've all been through highs and lows of our careers, and, it can emotionally drain you.
Yes.
These highest of highs, to come then back into club football and to back to the daily grind, and then to be expected to perform. A massive expectation on her to perform. It's very difficult.
Yes.
And I really like the appreciation of that from her manager, Gareth Taylor. So I think she's now starting to feed in. She has shared game time with Hayley Raso, and I think between the two of them, they've got a really healthy competition. And I think when Chloe's perhaps dipped, Hayley's come in, and I think when Chloe's been on her performance, Hayley's had to, really push. So I think that's the type of competition you want in a team.
Yes.
You could play either of them, and they both know I've got to perform today.
Yes.
And then you've obviously got Lauren Hemp, he's in a league of her own on the other side. But I think going back to Chloe, I think just now she's starting to score.
Yes.
Score, assist. She's a big provider for Bunny on that right-hand side. So I do think that she'll find that rhythm and that high level of performance. And she's got a long way to go.
Yeah.
But for her to recover from what's happened in the summer, to recover from an injury, and to come back and hit the ground running, and hopefully, she'll continue to be a big mainstay for Man City.
And on the other side, you mentioned it there. I mean, Hemp.
Yeah.
I mean, again, you say Chloe's playing at some level, but that's another one. I seem to be blown away every time I watch her play.
Yeah, she's just a wizard, isn't she? I mean, what I really enjoy about watching Hempo and kind of the path that she's taken is her decision making and her awareness as well. Like, not only, in terms of is she exceptionally good at manipulating the ball and to create that extra, I don't know, centimetre or two to kind of get across in the box. But now the choices that she's making in her delivery, if it's going to be, floated ball to the back post, is it going to be near post, for the run across the keeper? Is it going to be a delivery on the floor, like towards the near post? Is it going to be a cutback? Like, she's got this now ever increasing range of delivery into the box.
Yes.
But then she's also happy to come, cut inside, take the occasional shot on her right foot, which, we haven't seen her do a lot, but we're seeing her do more frequently. So now we can see that she's adding another level, to her weaponry. And then she's always so, I don't know, her left foot can be wicked at times, you know, and so like she's so multifaceted and versatile in what she brings to this team. Now I'm just thinking, my goodness, like what else is she going to do?
Yeah.
You know, like, are we going to start seeing these deep deliveries now, you know, that we kind of saw creep into like the men's side maybe a few years ago, that were, you know, catching a lot of teams out because everyone expects her to kind of challenge to the end line, the near post space. But, you know, what happens if she, you know, whips in a delivery from deeper? What is that going to look like?
Yeah.
You know? So I don't know. I'm fascinated by her. I really love watching her. She's really exciting. And I always remember training with her and, you know, just hoping that she didn't make me look foolish, you know, like she takes me one way and then cuts back another way. And I'm just, you know, she sits me down and then dribbles around me. And I'm like, here's info. Thanks.
Never UK. We have to
no,
see
you're
it.
right.
No.
I'm full of it.
Yeah. Listen, now we're going to take a slight pause here because we can now hear from our manager, Gareth Taylor. Here is him giving his thoughts ahead of our game against Arsenal.
So Gareth, big game today, Arsenal at the Academy Stadium. How have preparations been since Wednesday and how are the team feeling ahead of it?
Yeah, team are good, spirits are high, quick turnaround. I think it's all about recovery and, you know, that first 5 or 10 minutes could be, you know, real high energy. And I think it's about players regaining that kind of feeling and being ready for the rest of the game. So, yeah, a game we're looking forward to and we feel we're ready for.
You spoke about the pride in the performance on Wednesday night despite the defeat in extra time. I assume it's sort of a similar message for today's game, high intensity, trying to, as you say, get on the front foot as soon as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we did ourselves proud the other night in our performance. There were bits of our game where we need to turn like good moments into real better opportunities. So that's just that bit of quality at the top end of the pitch and being potentially a little bit more patient and a little bit more clever in our play and a bit smarter. But yeah, the effort levels and the quality shown at times the other night was very good. And if we get near that today, that gives us a good opportunity to get points on the board.
Just looking at the team today, Alana Kennedy not in the squad, I assume is that just monitoring her fitness after an injury rather than anything really concerning?
Yeah, but also she wasn't able to be available today. So I think, you know, given another 48 hours, I think she would have been there. It's just a quick turnaround again and, you know, a couple of changes just to freshen things up a little bit. But I think we've got good options from the sidelines as well. And I think, you know, it's not going to be about the first 11 players today. It's going to be about the team.
Absolutely. And we're unbeaten at home all season so far. Does that bring extra confidence as well, knowing how well we seem to be performing at the Academy Stadium?
Yeah, for sure. It's a record we're proud of. You know, we were proud of our 16-game winning run, unbeaten run as well. So I think, yeah, they're all nice stats for us to have. But we know today we've got to go out and earn it in the early clinches and give ourselves an opportunity.
Gareth Taylor there, cut a little bit short. We'll try and bring you that a little bit later on. But that was him giving his thoughts ahead of our Arsenal game. And I can bring you the Arsenal starting 11 now. So this is who City face today. We've got just under half an hour until kick-off. This is how Arsenal are shaping up. We've got Zinsberger in net, then Maritz and goal scorer from middle of the week, Wilbur Moy, Sousa and Catley there. Williamson, of course, we know, brilliant player. Little captains the side. Then we have Manham, brand new signing, Palova, who came in from Ajax, Ford, and then Blackstenius there. Looking to the bench, you can see as well, they've got lots of names you can bring on, but let's focus on that starting 11 to begin with. The new signing coming in from Ajax, Palova, what have you made of her impact since joining Arsenal?
Yeah, interesting. She's not had a lot of game time, but we saw her in the semi-final on Wednesday. I've seen her more for actually a national team, the Netherlands.
Yes.
Where I think most recently she was coming off the sides from a wide area, but she looks so comfortable on the ball, really comfortable, can travel down the outside, come into central areas. But yeah, I thought that we saw on Wednesday a player who can cause a lot of havoc. She's different. I think when you look at the Arsenal forwards, Blackstenius is different to Caitlin Ford, to what McCabe offers, to what Palova. I think they need a player like Palova to connect and to gel everybody, someone who can travel and stay on the ball a little bit longer. To bring out the best of the other forwards. Because I think sometimes the other forwards do it a little bit in isolation. Whereas I think she can just stay on the ball to allow... Because they like to counter-attack Arsenal, and that's how they could pose a big threat to Man City today. But her ball carries. But no, she has been impressive, and I think she's certainly one to watch, and she will grow the more game time she gets. But it's a big opportunity for her today, because the experience on Wednesday would have been different, but a WSL League game at City Ground is a whole different level of performance that's needed from her.
Absolutely, as we heard there in the interview as well, unbeaten at home as well, so it's a different proposition. Where can you see as well some of the other key kind of battle areas be today, and how might Arsenal look to get in behind City and get the 3 points?
Yeah, I think another key player for Arsenal is Caitlin Ford.
Yeah.
I think she's a player who has probably been in the shadows a little bit of Vivian Miedema and Beth Mead. Obviously, both of those are out.
Yes.
Long-term injuries for Arsenal now. So it's giving, like Laura was saying, the likes of Pavlova to come in and, you know, thrive.
Yes.
Because there's an opportunity to have. But I think for me, Caitlin Ford, she's always been a mainstay. She always starts for Arsenal. She's rarely on the bench. And she's so aggressive. She can make things happen out of nothing. And she can give fullbacks a real torrid time.
Yeah.
So I think stopping her today is important. And I think the other one to be wary of in the forward line is Blackstenius. I think she's been quiet this season. She's gone under a lot of pressure with, you know, the January transfer gossips and you know, her form for a top striker like she is has not been great. But I think that's when a forward is probably at their most deadly. You know? In a game like this, big game. And I think City centre-backs, Steph and Alex Greenwood, need to be really wary of her, the threat that she can pose, especially on the counter-attack, because she's a runner. She's a typical Scandinavian player. She's a runner in behind. You know, and she can create something. So I think you've got to be wary of her, and Caitlin Ford is another big one for me.
We were highlighting our attacking prowess, KB, but of course we know Arsenal are very solid at the back as well. It's the reason they've been doing so well in the season so far. Do you think they are going to make life difficult for our forward three?
Well, I think we're probably going to see some changes, you know, based on that starting 11, you know, in comparison to what we saw on Wednesday night. So I think there was a big question initially, wasn't there, when Arsenal lost Leah Williamson and Raffaele kind of in that key partnership, and who was going to step in there. And I think Walty at the time stepped in and Moritz stepped in. And yeah, I was quite interested to see the amount of changes. I thought it would be quite similar again from Wednesday night, but they're a really interestingly well-balanced team. I think Katie McCabe brings something different in her physicality and her approach to the game. I think Kim Little is an interesting one as well, because she brings a lot of security. You know, she'll get forward and she'll join in, but she's quite happy kind of directing from the back. And then there's a really strong rotation that protects that back three or back four as well in the midfield. And you've always got the solidity of Jen Beattie, who we saw come on late in the game as well. Big, experienced player, played for those big moments, you know, and she kind of, I thought, brought some calm and control to Arsenal as well. But yeah, depending on, you know, where Leah sits in today, if she's going to go into the midfield or if she's going to stay in the back line, you know, her range of passing is exquisite, you know. But she's also one of those defenders that seems to make things look really easy. She kind of organizes so well that she doesn't really have to go in for sliding challenges or tackles or anything like that, you know. So yeah, I think they've got a good amount of depth and quality in the back. Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to ask just as well, we know Beth Mead, of course, is out with that injury. You alluded to it. And actually I think as well there's three women in the top 20 players of the Women's Ballon d'Or as well with the same injury. Obviously, there's this big conversation now coming around that if some more research needs to be done into this ACL injury, do you think there is some that we need to explore that more and kind of actually look at what's going on there? Because it does seem to be popping up quite a lot now.
Yeah, I think we're having the conversation a hell of a lot more, aren't we? I think you look at, like you say, the Ballon d'Or list, the amount of top players now that we're seeing with ACL injuries is not okay. It's you know, the stat is awful. It doesn't help because now we're going WSL season or your domestic season and then big tournaments back to back because of the backlog of that. But I think, look, we're always fighting for more funding to go into the research, but then when the research happens, it's about then how are we digesting that and having the conversation to clubs. How's that being then put into good practice with the practitioners at each club? Are clubs doing their own research and funding? And how we kind of... I get that each club wants to have the competitive edge over everyone else, but, you know, for us to move forward in this area, you know, we need to kind of come together and share our findings, because it's not just, it's not just boots. It's not just...
cue angles.
It's not just anyone. It's and different players have. It's a whole. It's a really congested thing that we're looking at. It's not one simple answer. So that's why I just think the funding, the research, and we have to keep having the conversation to push it.
On that point, if I may,
no, of course,
we've known about ACL injuries for such a long time in women's sport, and the higher prevalence of them in women. To Laura's point, excellent point. Like, we've known about this for a while, but why has it taken like 3 world-class players to go down in fairly quick succession to actually go, oh, maybe there's an issue and we should probably do something about it? We've known this. The white papers go back decades, you know, and so my question is, like, why hasn't anything happened sooner? You know, I mean, the likes of Chloe Kelly, the people that have come back from it. I mean, I don't know if you remember this, Izzy, but like, this would have been, I think, the 2009 European Championships. Laura, you would have remembered this. Neats, I think, Anita Santi did her ACL in one of the first games. And ended up playing, like, through a majority of the tournament without an ACL. And then played in the final, didn't she, as well?
Really?
And it was like, oh, well, great, you know? Like, I don't know how she managed to do that. She was just so strong at the time. But, like, it's one of these things, like, it goes way back even before that. And then it just kind of really wasn't very well managed. We had loads of players that were kind of picking them up, and, you know, like, some were career ending, some just people never kind of got to back to where they were. You know, but, like, there were so many different kind of contributing factors, and I don't think we ever kind of got to an action point and said, well, this is probably how we can mitigate these injuries, because now the way the game is going, you're losing masses of talent time on the pitch because of these injuries, and it's just like, it's going to come to the point where someone needs to do something about it.
What really doesn't help, and I feel quite strongly about this, is the scheduling. You know, domestic scheduling. We can't control Spain, you know, football games domestically that happen in Europe.
Of course,
obviously that's UEFA's responsibility, and then on a global stage, FIFA. You know, the research coming from those major boards. But domestically, I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, so these 2 teams played on Wednesday night. They went to extra time. Man City were in London. They got back at 3 a.m. in the morning. And then playing this early kickoff, Saturday, 2 days. It's less than 2-day recovery, 48 hours. Now, if you ask a lot of professional players, not just in the women's game, in the men's game, it takes them more than 48 hours to recover from a match. If they've played 90 minutes, but they played 120 minutes the other night. Your sleep's affected. And I'm going, okay, so how do we look at this and go, because like Laura and KB both alluded to, we know it's out there, so why is nobody doing anything about it? So I don't understand that moving forward, somebody needs to look at what's happened in this week and go, is that okay moving forward? Are we protecting our best talent in the country? Do you know what? It actually doesn't matter if it's the best talent. It doesn't matter who, everyone's equal.
It's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do.
Absolutely,
And I looked at this fixture today, and I was like, wow. It's not good enough.
No, not
it's not
at
good
all.
enough. I mean, superb game, and I really hope the fatigue doesn't affect both teams, because we want to see a top game.
Exactly.
I'm hoping that somebody's going to look at this and go, that can't happen next season. Can't
absolutely.
happen next season.
And what you want to see is actually, if the conversation's happening, but if we're serious then about dealing with it, let's start seeing that in action, rather than just paying lip service. And I mean, not to add to it, but it does then. One of my next things to talk about though is the international call-ups. That's where the conversation goes next. So it's relentless. But the side for City is that we've got so many
the amazing thing was it 7 players?
It's 7.
I mean, that's great to see, and what's even more fun to see is like we've got loanees out that have been called up as well. So and there's great representation from across Manchester. Like, if I'm being real selfish, like the goalkeeper union's looking amazing. You know what I mean? I'm like, the North. Anyway, but no, I'm really excited, to see the girls get back in there. It's been about 3 months, I think, since the last camp, and I bet everyone's itching to just get back on that pitch and in preparation for not only the Arnold Clark Cup but the World Cup coming in was it July and August? God, what an exciting time! Like I miss that type of preparation, and I'm sure we'll see like a lot of tinkering as well at the Arnold Clark Cup, trying all sorts of different relationships and the composition of the team and maybe the approach to the game might change slightly, but it'll just be fun. I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
I mean, very exciting. And I guess, for players as well, it must be so nice, when you actually do all come together. You might be playing at your prospective clubs, but particularly we saw in the Euros as well. There's a real cohesive nature about this England team, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. And like KB said, it's kind of you're itching to get back. You haven't seen each other for 3 months. You kind of have to take the club mentality and club shirt off, and then think, right, I'm not your enemy on the pitch now. I'm actually your England teammate, and we're gonna. It does take a while. It does take a few days, but we're actually going to work together to try and win the World Cup now. But it is. It's you just want to be playing games for your country. You want to be performing well. And again, for different players, what the role you might be asked to perform at club might be totally different under Sarina Wiegman for England. So you just have to kind of adapt to that as soon as possible. But it's certainly exciting times. I think as international, when the World Cup is in 2023. So when you turn 2023, that's it. You're in countdown. You're looking at your calendars. It's like. Players need to, if they want to be serious about going to the World Cup and getting in the squad, they need to be performing in the She Believes and know that it's an opportunity. Yes, domestic performances do count to get you in there, but actually when you get the nod from Sarina, you need to perform in well because there's not a lot of time and not a lot of games before the World Cup.
I mean, it does feel, it's so hard, but this World Cup coming up, Izzy, especially on the back of the Euros as well. I know we've got close before, but I don't know, as a fan, you don't want to get ahead of yourself.
You're celebrating already.
It's going to get brought home again, but it does.
Got an England shirt.
Yeah, underneath. Yeah. But it does feel that this team, from what we've seen already, and actually still could go even further. That we have some. Looks good prospects.
Yes, it does. It does. I think really key international window coming up. Like Laura said, there's going to be some tinkering, with formations, because when you're on top, and a City men's team will know this really well, when you're on top, people are coming for you. So how do you adapt? So I kind of predict there'll be a little bit of tinkering from Sarina, adapting formations, players to give them, another step ahead of the opponents. And obviously it goes without saying that a World Cup, includes USA, Brazil, to name two, Japan, who are also a top team, Canada, obviously Olympic champions.
Yeah.
There's teams in there that are different to what you play against in Europe. So there's going to have to be another dimension to Sarina Wiegman's team for England to keep themselves ahead of the opponents. But very exciting time, very exciting. But like Laura said, I think from the way I look at it, selection's wide open.
Yes.
Wide open. Yeah. Anyone could be on that plane. And the girls that are selected for this camp, it doesn't mean that you're selected for the World Cup, because you don't know how the manager's going to think. And she brings that aura about, doesn't she, Wiegman? You're on your toes all the time. I'm even on my toes and I'm not in the fray. So, do you know what I mean? So it's like, if I said she was at our game last weekend against Man United, I was like, better, she's got that presence about her, and there's no wonder she's the top manager.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a good problem to have anyway, although I don't envy being in her position anyway. Well, listen, we've got, of course, the Arnold Clark Cup. That kicks off Thursday, 16th of February. We've got Korea Republic there, 19th of February as well. We'll be taking on Italy as well. That game's in Coventry, so maybe if you're around that area, make sure you get on down and support our girls. Now, the games come thick and fast across Manchester City. Tomorrow, we have got our EDS in action. You can catch them in action on City Plus or on Recast as they take on Liverpool. Barry Murphy's team have chance to make the gap 5 points between them and Chelsea. They're having a brilliant season, so we wish them all the luck. You can catch that on there. And Matchday Live, of course, we'll be bringing you as well all the build-up to our game against Aston Villa. We've got Petrov and Gareth Barry alongside Darius Vassell, which is a great show indeed. Now, February as well is not just busy for football, but it's busy in a bigger sense because it's the LGBTQ plus month. That is where, of course, we talk about the history of the month, obviously what needs to happen now in important matters. It's so brilliant. We're doing a lot around it this month, but we wanted to catch up with some fans, Jane and Sarah, who we were speaking to ahead of our game against Arsenal.
Blandy, Jane, thanks for joining us. Big game today, but obviously across the whole of February, we're celebrating LGBTQ plus History Month. It's an opportunity to celebrate the community, but also acknowledge the history and the heritage as well. So for both of you, why is it so important that months like this are in the year that we can acknowledge and celebrate the community?
We should always celebrate not just the month, to be honest, but throughout the year. It's a chance to look back on the history of the past and how far we've come along, and how it's the people of the past, and I mean, back in the 70s, 80s, have given our future, our present and the future, a chance to live life to the full without judgment or prejudice. We know that there's still a long way to go, but I think the people of now and the people of the past, if they look back on what it was like, that we're there to be able to help those that need the help, obviously transgenders, and then people from other countries that are still fighting for the freedom to be who they are as part of the LGBTQ family. So.
Absolutely. And why is it important as well that this month is observed by allies as well as those who are actually part of the community as well?
I think it is massively important. We want to be able to create a space where people are free to be who they are, free to come along, free to kind of enjoy things like sport alongside friends and just be their authentic selves and kind of do that in a safe space and know that they're not being judged and know that they're, free to kind of come along and enjoy everything with their friends and just people who support them.
And the Women's Official Supporters Club is obviously a massive safe space for people who are part of the community or part of allies as well. You mentioned the importance of that safe space, Jane. How important can football be in general and sport for those people as well?
I mean, I think it's huge for people to be able to kind of be in sport and be who they are and not be judged for it. I think the women's game on the whole is kind of quite a safe space for that, and we want to see that continue throughout all sport, regardless of whether it's women's sport, men's sport, for kind of people to be able to come along and just be who they are without being judged, without being abused for it. It can only be good for people going forward.
Well said. And looking ahead to, obviously, today's game, it's a huge game for City, welcoming Arsenal to the Academy Stadium. Only played them a few days ago, but how are you both feeling ahead of this one?
I think, unfortunately, I couldn't go to the match the other day due to work, but we have a reputation at City. We fight to the end. We come out stronger, and I think the girls would have gone back, analysed things, and they will be out to get revenge, really, on that score. And I think we'll be up there. I think we're at the end. I think we will be winning today. Our girls are strong. They want to please the crowd. They want to please their fans, and I think this could be a winner for us today.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Massive thank you to Jane and Sarah. They go home and away, so we thank you for your support and thank you for the interview there as well. Of course, February LGBTQ plus month, so that, of course, is where we are highlighting and talking about such an important part in not just sport, in across life. It's for anyone and everyone. Everyone should feel safe, everyone should feel accepted, and everyone should feel included. And listen, it's also a chance where you can go and learn a little bit more, so maybe you want to do some reading, ask some questions. This is the month to do it. And after a month after that as well. Every month is LGBTQ plus month. Right, if you've just tuned in, we have got, let me have a look here, 8 minutes until kick-off. Alistair Mann has got commentary today. Let me just quickly recap our starting 11. We've got Ellie Roebuck comes back into the side in net. Then we have Casper Eye. Houghton captains the side. We've got Greenwood, Alexandri, Hasegawa, Angle-Dahl, Coombs, Kelly, Bunnyshaw and Hemp. If you've just tuned in, how can you see this playing out? We've seen the Arsenal team. We've got that starting 11, 3 changes from the Continental Cup match. How can you see it playing out? Big question.
Yeah, big question. I think it'll be similar to Wednesday. I really do. I think really closely contested. I think by the looks of Arsenal, maybe Leah Williamson will go into that midfield because I think, City is so strong at home, so dominant with the ball. I think Leah Williamson will need to help Kim Little and maybe Marnham to try and stifle City, but I think it'd be really close contested. Just fine margins, really. Key moments, big chances. But yeah, it'd be interesting. We saw on Wednesday, we were speaking about it actually, how physical Arsenal were and trying to be dominant and impose themselves on City. But it's really tough to come to the CFA and do that at City, at their home ground. So it'd be interesting to see if there's any spice. I think we've seen a lot of spice between Chloe Kelly and Katie McCabe. So that'd be interesting to see how that battle plays out.
Indeed. And we've got goals on our team, but, there's goals on their team. Could you maybe throw a prediction my way?
I thought you put Bass on the spot.
I swerved the prediction.
Yeah, you did swerve that. Right? Have you done that before?
Look, I think a City win would be fantastic. it's going to be close, 2-1, 1-0. I'm giving you a few here.
Okay.
I think if City get hold of the game early, Hasegawa is key. I think City have got more firepower.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
If they get it right.
It's a good answer.
Yes.
Like that. KB, do you want to give me a prediction?
Oh my gosh. I think, look, City got so much joy on the flanks, like down the channels, the wide spaces against Arsenal midweek, but just didn't seem to capitalise. And I think Arsenal they're clever, you know, and they'll understand that Bunny's going to probably be the main threat from central. So they're probably going to be looking to make sure that she doesn't get the service that she's looking for, you know, in terms of stopping it at source. And so they're probably going to, I don't know, we might see some unusual goal scorers today. You know, like Laura Coombs has always got a banger in there somewhere. You know,
yeah.
She's known for long range shooting, which I didn't really realize until she came and played for us. So I imagine we might see someone step up today a little bit different. You know, but ultimately, I don't know. I'm feeling that the girls would have reflected and put things right. So I'm looking forward to a 1-0 City victory today.
Laura, do you want to throw a little prediction my way?
I mean, I'd love it to be a 3-3 draw. No, I'm only joking. No, I do think it's going to be tight. But what, you know, for a top bins, that's what I'd like the game to be won on a top bins. Rather than it was a scrappy. It could have gone either way Wednesday. It's a scrappy goal in the end. It's tough to take if you're on the losing side. But yeah, I'd like a nice banger today.
Yeah.
I think Arsenal are a little bit desperate for a win.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that desperation can overcome the actual process of winning. So I think City, calm, collected, dictate the game.
Yeah, nice. I like that. Let's see then. All right, well, we will be back at half-time, then we'll be back at full-time. As I say, Alistair Mann has got commentary for us as well. But thank you so much for joining in. And listen, as our debuts, Laura and Izzy, everything okay so far?
Yeah, brilliant, yeah.
They've been exceptional.
Honestly, that show is absolutely flown. So come back and enjoy more of this great conversation with my guests at half-time. They're coming out on the pitch, so let's hand over to Alistair Mann. And last thing for me to say is, come on, City.
The sold-out signs have long since been displayed at the box office on a huge day for City's women in the WSL. The Blues face Arsenal in front of a sell-out crowd at the CFA in a match which could be pivotal in their campaign.